Age of War is a small box game by Fantasy Flight Games. It is a Knizia design and it is set in ancient Japan. It is a very simple dice game where players play the role of local lords that are trying to conquer power, and they'll do that by taking control of castles that are available at the beginning of the game. Very small game. This is the box, and here you see pretty much all of the components, including the instructions. Just a single sheet of paper for the instructions. The components are a set of special custom dice and a set of tiles, cards representing the castles that the players will be fighting for. Each castle has a number printed there, and that indicates the number of points that the castle is worth. Then you have on the right side icons that need to be read as independent lines, as discrete lines. And these represent the results that the players need to roll and to invest on the card to be able to conquer a castle. Each card also has an icon there, a red icon in the top left corner of the card, but we will ignore that for now. I'll explain later what that is. So as I said, players are trying to take control of as many of these castles as possible to earn points and to become the most powerful leader of the region. To start your turn, you roll your 7 dice. And you look at the results. At that point, you can choose to use the results to start trying to take control of one of the castles, or you can choose to reroll. If you choose to reroll, then you lose a die, you set this aside, and you reroll all the other dice. But suppose that actually I'm happy with my result and I want to start conquering stuff, in which case I have to commit to a castle. Each turn you can only try to take control of a single castle. And in order to take control of a castle, you need to fill up the lines on the right side of the castle, but one roll at a time. For example, let's say that I want to take control of that castle. I roll these 2 icons, then I place these dice there. Then I re-roll all of my dice, and now with the result of my next roll, I need to try to fill up one of these 2 lines. Let's see what I'm doing here. Oh, this is a lucky roll because I get a cavalry and archer unit, so I can fill up that icon there. And now I only have 1 line which is left, and that one requires 3 swords. And lines that require a certain number of swords can be filled by any combination of dice as long as you reach the minimum required. For example, if you need to put together 5 swords, that can be done with a die with 3 and 2, or with 3 dice that have, say, 2, 2, and 1 sword. Oh, this, as I'm trying to take control of that castle, is not as good. I do not have 3 swords. If you fail to fill a line as you're trying to conquer a castle, you can reroll, but you lose a die. So, rule of thumb, as you're rolling dice, as anytime that you can do something with your dice, you can take control of something, then you reroll all of your remaining dice. If your roll doesn't allow you to take control of anything in the castle that you're trying to conquer, then you lose a die and you can reroll the remaining dice. There you go. I have 3 swords. 3 swords were required to take control of that castle. I filled up all of the icons, all of the lines in that castle, and I take control of this castle and I put it in my play area. Your turn is over when you either conquer the castle that you were trying to take, or you are left out of dice and there's nothing else you can do because you lost all of your dice. Well, either they're committed and or lost and you haven't taken control of anything. Now, the castle is in front of you and it will score this amount of victory points at the end of the game if it stays with you. When you're attacking a castle, you can attack castles that belong to other players too. So you can choose to attack castles that are in the middle of the table, still available, or that belong to other players. In order to do so, you still need to fill up all of the icons just like you would do regularly, but you also need to fill up that icon, which counts as an independent icon. So on top of meeting these requirements, at some point you also need to roll a daimyo symbol and to place it there. The red icon in the top left corner of the castles becomes active, becomes a requirement to take a castle when you're trying to take it from another player. However, there is a way of locking your castles or of making them a little more secure. As you see, castles belong to clans. They're color-coded. Here we have the purple clan, red clan, green clan, which is only one card. Here we have the gray clan. If you manage to take control of all of the cards belonging to a clan, then you turn them face down. At that point, you form a stack. There will be only one card in each clan that has a number printed on it. You put that on top of the stack. Not only does a clan represent and give you more points than the sum of the castles, usually. So there's an advantage there. You get more points for completing the set. But also a clan, once you own it entirely, is locked. It is put face down in front of you, and players cannot take it from you anymore. Players goes around the table with players rolling dice, re-rolling, investing, dice, trying to take control of castles, failing or succeeding to do so, stealing castles from one another, and you continue like this until all castles have been removed from the central area of the table. They're all assigned to players, and at the point the game is over and the player with the highest amount of victory points at the end of the game is the winner. Age of War is a very simple game. Very linear, very basic mechanics. Like, the advantage of that is that you can easily play it with non-gamers. I could probably play it with my 4-year-old. I don't see any problem that she would have in grasping the rules, which is what you can expect with many other dice games too. Nevertheless, this is a game that is attractive for adults too. This is far from being exclusively targeted to children games. It is targeted for adults that want a light diversion. They want to play a beer and pretzel game, or maybe a sake and sushi games. I don't know how beer and pretzel games are described in Japan. But if that is what you're looking for, then Age of War is an option. Even though it's not exactly just a small filler, oh, we have 20 minutes between games at a game night, let's play this. Because it takes a little longer than that to play. It can easily take almost an hour. Again, in a certain sense, it's not that it's really tough gaming, you're concentrated, you're so absorbed, you're only thinking about that. The casual nature of the game seems to encourage chatting as the game goes on, conversation, which actually may be what stretches the length of the game more than the basic implementation of the mechanics. Choices are there. They're interesting enough to keep you interested and to want you to roll more and to try to grab the next castle. Stealing castles from the opponent is always tricky because it's harder than to get and grab a castle in the middle of the table, but the payoff can be considerable if you manage to break up a clan that the opponent is trying to form, if you manage to re-get the card that the opponent has just taken and new form that clan, or just because that's a very profitable castle that the opponent has, or just because you don't like the face of the other opponent and you want to take that castle from them. There's no rule against that, I have to say. So, there is interaction, there's interaction, and yes, it could be confrontational, but let's face it, rolling these dice is so fun, the theme is so abstract. I don't think that the confrontation is going to lead to terribly unpleasant moments. If anything, there are moments where there are some castles to take on the board that are so hard to take that players keep going on the table and they always try to attack the same castle and they never take it. At the end, when one player finally takes it, everybody's just cheering. We're just happy that that castle is out of the way. Even though I may lose the game because of that, because my opponent just got that castle, I'm still gonna cheer. I'm still happy that somebody took it because the castle started getting annoying. Which may be one of the small flaws of the design. I don't even know if it's a flaw. It's probably something that you have to take into account with most dice games of this type, which is you will have the odd case when the dice don't hit right and there is a castle or two that just seems to be impossible to take, defies the odds, and that stretches playtime past the point in which that would be desirable. That won't happen every time, won't happen regularly, but it may happen that the game had a nice pace, it was interesting, there was a nice progression, and then all of a sudden things plateau because one castle is left on the table and no one seems to be able to take it. If at that point that castle, say, is the last one, and the taking of that castle will not affect the final score, then that's not a problem. You just forget about the castle, and whoever is the winner at that point is declared to be the winner. But if that castle actually determines victory somehow, after a while that you're trying to take that castle, it can feel like the previous part of the game becomes less relevant. It's somehow, the experience is somehow diminished. It all of a sudden feels like, well, maybe we could have played the shorter version of this already short game by simply putting this castle in the middle of the table and try to take that one. Minor quibbles for a game that in essence is quick, small, fun, inexpensive, very portable. For a filler, this is a nice one. It looks nice, it is easy to play, it plays fast, and the pace moves not super fast, because each turn you still need to roll several times, and if you have several players it may take a while. It's not super fast, but it's not slow either. I think it strikes a good balance between giving everybody a chance to roll a couple of times and feel like they're really doing something, and not lingering too much before the game goes back to you. So the pace is, I would say, right for a filler of this type. Age of War, small dice game, filler game by Reiner Knizia, fantasy flight game, enjoyable, small filler, little nice design.